Welcome to the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast, presented by the Beef Cattle Research Council, the most popular content from beefresearch.ca, available on the go. Before we get into this week's episode, a quick message from the BCRC.
Forage management is an important part of beef farming and ranching. Forage U-Pick is an interactive initiative aimed at providing farmers and ranchers with resources and tools to make informed decisions about forage management. It offers online learning modules and resources on various aspects of forage management, including selecting the right forage species, calculating your seeding rates, and forage weed management. Explore the Forage U-Pick resources and how it can work from your operations by clicking the link in the show notes. This episode is titled Out with the Old, In with the New.
Hi, I'm Kristen Thompson with the Beef Cattle Research Council. New forage varieties are helping fill gaps in the grazing season by allowing beef cattle to graze for longer each year, increasing forage quality in previously poor growing areas, and providing high-quality winter feed. Since pasture, hay, and silage, a perennial and annual forage crops, provide most of the annual feed for beef cattle, producers need access to high-quality, high-yielding, and well-adapted forage varieties to improve the economics of production. However, knowing which forage variety will meet the needs of each unique operation and feeding scenario can be difficult. It may appear easier to stick with the forage variety you know and have been seeding for years, but are you missing out on positive benefits that can come from new forage varieties? So what are some of the benefits of new forage varieties? One is higher yields. New forage varieties are often developed to produce more, higher quality forage when compared to traditional varieties. The amount of forage produced directly determines the animal production per acre. For example, increasing forage production on grazing land or pastures means that higher stocking rates can be applied and animal performance may also improve. Similarly, increasing yields on hayland or annual crops seeded for forage production increases the forage dry matter harvested and stored and reduces the cost per unit of production. This equates to reduced winter feed costs per cow. A second benefit is improved quality. Quantity is often thought of when it comes to feeding beef cattle, but it is quality that truly matters. Forage quality is defined by the nutritive value of the forage, or in other words, the amount of available energy, protein, fiber, minerals, and vitamins that forage provides when consumed by livestock. This concentration of nutrients directly impacts the performance, so looking at health and growth, of each individual animal. The various components of a plant, such as fiber, protein, and carbohydrates, will impact forage quality differently. As an example, let's look at lignin. So lignin is a structural component of plant cell walls, and it limits microbial digestion in the rumen, which negatively impacts the overall digestibility of that forage. Increased concentrations of lignin in the growing forage crop will increase the percentage of indigestible forage dry matter during grazing or at harvest. These lower quality forages, so higher fiber, lower digestibility, can reduce overall forage intake, which compromises animal performance. Selecting a low lignin, so higher quality variety to include in your rotation can help to reduce this issue. Enhanced palatability is another potential benefit. The palatability of a forage is the combination of plant features and conditions that encourage livestock to consume that plant. Factors impacting this include texture, aroma, leaf percentage, or sugar content. Essentially, higher palatability means that animals like to eat that forage more. In extensive production systems, forage intake provides the energy needed for optimal cattle health and production, so looking at growth, milk production, reproduction. This means palatability becomes extremely important as the willingness of an animal to eat a forage will directly impact that animal's performance. The more palatable the plant, the more the animal will consume. One way that new forage varieties increase palatability is through increased leaf-to-stem ratio. The leaves are much more palatable and higher quality compared to the plant stem. Thus, increasing the number of leaves per plant encourages higher levels of intake. Another potential benefit is reduced fertilizer costs. The goal of fertilizing forage crops is to decrease the per unit cost of production. However, higher yields do not necessarily translate into lower costs or increased profits. Only when the value of the additional forage produced is greater than the cost of application does it reduce the per unit cost of production and increase margins. Therefore, the profitability of fertilizing forage crops is highly variable and depends on the cost of the fertilizer, hay prices, and regional soil and weather conditions. Selecting the right forage variety can help reduce the need for fertilizer through the development of varieties with more efficient fixing of nitrogen, increased biomass production per unit of nitrogen, or increased drought tolerance. Some new forage varieties are developed for better disease or pest resistance. Disease and insects can have significant negative impacts on yield, quality, utilization by livestock, and the longevity of a forage stand. Minimizing these losses is vital to maintaining or increasing productivity. There are some varieties of legumes and grasses that have been developed to be resistant to forage insects and diseases. Choosing these varieties can help to reduce the amount of pest treatment used during the growing season. A final potential benefit that we're going to go over is improved adaptation to regional conditions. Many regions of Canada experience unpredictable weather, including drought, severe flooding, and harsh winters. In addition, some regions may have acidic soils, poor drainage, or extreme weed competition. These conditions can all lead to reduced forage yields, decreased quality, and poor stand persistent, all of which limit the forage available for consumption by livestock. Choosing a forage that is adapted to the conditions of the seeding site may be more effective than adapting the site to fit an appealing forage. Some new forage varieties offer an advantage in this regard. For example, heat-resistant varieties can extend the grazing season during the summer months. Similarly, varieties with increased resistance to drought stress are critical in maintaining grazing quality during dry periods. So how do I select new forage varieties for my operation? Some of the key factors to consider include regional climatic conditions, so looking at flooding, rainfall, growing season length. What is the intended use of the forage? Is it going to be harvested for stored feed, or is it going to be grazed? What are the soil conditions? What's the nutrient content, pH? Are the soils acidic? Grazing management. Will the forage be used in a rotational grazing system, or is it going to be used for extended grazing? And what are the cattle requirements? What is the class of cattle that's being grazed? Are you grazing mature cows, mature bulls, or growing calves? All of these will have an impact on their requirements. Consider also reaching out to local extension experts or agronomists in your region for insights into forage varieties adapted to your region. It is also worth consulting with neighbors about what they are doing and what has worked on their operations. There are also online tools such as Forage U-Pick, which can help farmers and ranchers from British Columbia to the Maritimes choose forages best suited to their fields, calculate seeding rates, and manage weeds. There is a link to the calculator in the show notes.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can find all relevant links and information at beefresearch.ca or in the show notes. The Beef Cattle Research Council is funded by the Canadian Beef Cattle Checkoff and strives for excellence in the production of Canadian beef, cattle, and forage through research, innovation, and extension. Tune in every Tuesday as the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast delivers straightforward insights, expert information, and a wealth of practical knowledge for Canadian beef producers. Subscribe now.